you've been married 4.5 years, you've been with Harith for 9 years.
Yes, I'm Gen Z.
How are you not pregnant yet? And I'm like, bro.
We're secure, we give ourselves the confidence.
Everything was hush-hush when I got my first period.
So research and me are on a breakup right now.
A pregnant woman isn't a patient. Don't call her a patient.
You have to have a plan to not have a plan.
I'm an overthinker and I'm a planner.
I think the thing that surprised me the most was how much I didn't know. Yes, as gynecs, we should give you the option to meet a pelvic physio.
You need to work out, you need to take less stress. What about the guy?
And that's when I think my heart stopped because I didn't know I was taking birth control.
I was really struggling with myself.
It's like I had zero idea. I was thrown into the deep end.
Can you just give me all my questions? I need to kind of think about this.
Think about the answer.
Like maybe
Coffee with Karan just cancelled her episode. They were like, she ain't gonna work for this.
So what if you had a crystal ball that you could look into and have a peek ahead, know exactly what's going to come in the future? I mean, if you'd know how your body would change, what challenges would come up, and if you could do something today to fix that. I wish I had that. When I was expecting my first child, it was like I was thrown into the deep end. I thought it was going to be fun. I mean, babies are cute, cuddly, and milk picky smells, but the honest truth is I was drowning. I have this running joke. With every baby, I had one autoimmune condition creep up on me. So with the first child, I had thyroid issues, and with the second one, I had lichen planus. But, it's not really funny, is it? I mean, in retrospect, if I had an idea of all of these conditions that could happen, I mean, what if I could prospectively do things that could help me avoid being in that situation at all? So today, on this podcast, we are giving you that opportunity, a peek into this crystal ball, because we have with us 4 fascinating women at different milestones. Thank you for being here, guys. So we have an 18-year-old who's dealing with the chaos of being, 18, and her decisions are going to define the next decade, right? We have a 30-year-old who's at the crossroads of her career and maybe babies in the future.
Maybe.
And then we have a doctor who's been now swimming beautifully with life with newborn, right? And the balance between getting back to an intensely busy career and also being there present as a mom. And we have someone who's been through it all, redefining menopause, and an extremely great example to all of us on how we should be there when we get there. So they're here now to give us advice on the stuff that they wish they knew, the stuff that they never saw coming, and what they would tell their younger selves a couple years ahead. So let's get started. All right, welcome to What Women Need, and we're going to start with Aanya. Hi. So Aanya is 18 and she's in grade 12. Aanya, you're at AISC, right? And you're right now at this point in your life where, you're making big decisions, right? So how do you feel? How do you feel where you are right now? And
I think the emotion that overwhelms me most of the time is uncertainty. I am waiting for decisions, I'm waiting for exam results, and I don't know where I'm going to be even 4 months down the line right now. So I feel very up in the air. At the same time, I would say I'm very excited and looking forward to big changes and living on my own for the first time. So definitely a mix of both positive and negative emotions.
Yeah, that's great. And I'm so excited that you're going to actually get some insight into some of the things that may crop up in the next decade for you. Because believe me, when I went at this time point for grad school, I think that's when I put on that freshman's 15. That really threw me, right? I'm sure my hormones were all over the place at that point. So thank you for being here. So we have Aashna next, who's the Senior Brand Manager at Rubicon.
That's right. I head the brand management division in Rubicon. I've been there for about 10 years now. So hectic. There's only one word to describe advertising: chaotic. No semblance of time. But I think I thrive on that madness, right? I think I do the best when it's chaotic. As contradictory as it is to what I need, it's what I love. So, yeah.
Oh my God, and you said, I mean, it gives me goosebumps because I'm thinking back to the time where we would throw ourselves into work. And like ran on like last minute deadlines because that adrenaline kind of pushed you over, right?
And that's all I know. I mean, advertising is all about that. So it's what I love.
That also comes with burnout.
It does, and it's taken me 10 years to figure how to balance the two. I'm still learning. I'm not acing it at all. And it's got its pros and cons, but the second you learn how to prioritize yourself, I think you can find a way to juggle the two. Yeah.
Fabulous. I feel like I'm already learning from you.
Oh, I'm far from someone you need to learn from. I'm learning from you. So that's how it's going. Yeah.
All right. So we have Dr. Lavanya, and she is a gynecologist, which is fabulous because we're all talking about women's health here. And Lavanya, you've also been now starting this new parallel career of being a mom. It's a full-time job. How do you feel?
I mean, the day I quit my job to stay home and have my baby and things like that, I felt like, oh, you know what, I've quit my job. That's great. I can be at home and whatever. But I just realized I got a new boss. Now I just have a new boss. I cannot do anything without my boss's approval, and it's actually way more taxing than going back to a job. So I'm actually looking forward to going back to my job because I'm like, you know what, that's great. I can, you lose so much of yourself in the process, and I'm so excited to regain that at some level. I mean, of course, motherhood is fulfilling and it's beautiful, and I wouldn't change a thing, but I'm so looking forward to, so cliche, but feeling like myself again,
No, I hear you on that completely because it's a constant struggle. I was so looking forward to becoming a mother, but the minute I became a mother, I realized that I was like, I didn't feel in control. I was being run on another person's timeline constantly. And it is a very different feeling. It's a very new feeling. I read something about why mountain climbers do what they do, like extreme sport, right? Like they're climbing icy, can fall at any given moment, but apparently they do it because they feel in control over there. It's unimaginable, but I kind of related to that. Like going back to work for me was like being in control.
Yeah.
So that's great. And I think women today definitely need a balance between both, and we need better tool sets, like just like a better toolkit to actually do it better. Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Then we have Mrs. Neetha Asrani, and she is a business owner and entrepreneur, Fagun Companies. And how do you feel like in this stage in your life? Like you're also mom to two grown, beautiful women. So how do you feel?
To be very honest, I'm feeling top of the world. I have no regrets. I'm very happy to be where I am today because I feel that I have really worked towards being who I am today. And I think it's pretty good. I don't wish to change the picture that I see of myself today. I have two beautiful girls. I have an adoring husband. I've lived in a joint family, and I know the values of being and living with elders. I have my aged parents staying with me right now. So caring for the elders has continued from my in-laws to my parents, which is like inculcating very good value systems, which I have come from when I was young, because I too came from a joint family. And I had, just pre-COVID, I wound up my business of exports of home textiles, which was my baby after marriage. By the way, I got married when I was 16-year-old. I was telling these girls about it. At the age of 19, I already had my first baby. And so for 37 years, I was in the export business, juggling between home, looking after the kids, looking after my in-laws, and at work. And I feel very proud. I have 3 shining gold medals for being consecutive 3 years the topmost exporter of home textiles from the President of India. So I think they remind me of my good work. And the turning point in my life, which I would say is when I went on to a spiritual path. That actually brought the balance which was so much needed at that moment in my life. Because it's a struggle, you're working, you're waiting to get back to work, so I can really understand that. I would say, okay, now my child is little grown up, now I'm going back to my sports. I like the feel of cotton in my hand. I'm feeling more comfortable being in my studio making new designs, you know, waiting to present them to the world. So I could really relate what you were saying. But today, I'm happy.
That really, thank you for saying that, because I feel like I could relate to each one of, I mean, I've been there, done that with everything that they've talked about, but the stuff that you bring up, I'm not yet there. And I can see how, like, you know, connecting to a higher level, like at a, you know, to a spiritual journey could maybe help you find that balance eventually. Yeah. So thank you for saying that. All right. So let's start with some questions for Aanya. And Aanya, so you're like, technically, I'm very bad with these generations, but you're Gen Z, right?
Yes, I'm Gen Z. Yeah.
And you're like, this is the generation that's like really digitally connected, much more socially secure. So like, are there still any taboos that you feel around conversations with friends?
I think it really just depends on your crowd, and I feel like I've been lucky enough to find birds of my feather wherever I've gone. And I think talking about women's health, it's interesting because I don't know if it's the diet or what it is, but a lot of my friends also struggle with things related to women's health. And so I think because there is so much sharing and so much consumption, people are more open to asking questions, and if they don't know things, they want to learn, they want to research, they want to talk about it more, for sure. At the same time, I think being a teenager, there's always that fear of being judged a little bit, because we all want to be accepted. We're all looking for that validation as much as, you know, we say, you know, we're secure, like we give ourselves the confidence. Definitely there is that inside part of us that's looking for external validation. So I think it's always finding your comfort before you share vulnerable things about yourself. Always that fear of being judged, I think, which I hope goes away at some point.
I think it does. You just get more secure as you
Okay,
grow older. So I guess it's, yeah. It's,
That definitely goes away, but I definitely remember how hard it was. But I think, I don't know, I think this generation, at least when I see my own daughter, they're secure about some of the things, like about body image, that definitely we were like running in circles over. Like, I don't think we had anybody to talk about with regard to these things. So, and hopefully your parents are more like, they connect better at your level, I think, because there's more information, so makes it easier. But that being said, if you have like a health issue, like, do you feel comfortable? When we had health issues growing up, I think we just go to our parents about it. But do you feel comfortable reaching out to your parents, to your friends, or do you immediately go like to research on it online? Like, what's your...
I think with my experience, so I have PCOS, and I think I started kind of feeling it about 3-4 years ago. And the first person I went to was my mum. I'm very close to her, so I find it easy to talk to her about these things. And I think the whole idea of talking to family is, it's great to have that support system. At the same time, I think there is that generational gap. So there was this idea of like, no, it will sort itself out, you just have to wait it out. Don't put a label on it, don't put the name on it and make it something it's not. So I think that's when I kind of, before going to a gynac and getting diagnosed, I think research really helped me. It's ironic because I listened to a lot of podcasts on PCOS, so I'm very privileged to be in one. So, and I think the research aspect of it definitely is a double-edged sword, because there's so much information out there. At the same time, there is so much information out there, and you don't know what to believe, you don't know what's right, what's wrong, what is sensationalized, what is the pragmatic way to approach it. So I think it was just accessing all of my stakeholders and then corroborating and calibrating and finding like a balance of what I understand and what I want to know in that kind of context.
Absolutely. And you know, when you did eventually talk to doctors, were you able to get like, you know, the kind of support that you had heard about?
I think my experience with getting diagnosed and treated as well was definitely an emotional roller coaster, because before I went to the gynecologist or reached out to experts, I was mentally and physically exhausted on many different planes, and I didn't understand what was going on in my body. Like, I didn't know what exactly PCOS was, that I even had it, and how to deal with it. And before my cycle, it would always just be a nightmare, like 2 weeks of emotionally not feeling stable, like feeling tired all the time, etc., etc. And so I did go to a few gynecologists, and I was told, yes, you have PCOS. I got my blood work done, I did the scans, and I was put on Crimson 35, I believe, which is an oral tablet. And then we got a second opinion, and I was moved to Yasmin. This was also a medication. And so I was taking it, my cycle was regular. And I was like, wow, you know, like my cycle is coming every 25 days. This is something that I've never experienced, always been so irregular. I would never know when it's coming, when it's going. So I looked it up, and because I didn't know exactly what I was taking, and it said combination contraceptive. Yeah. And that's when I think my heart stopped, because I didn't know I was taking birth control. And so I talked to my mom about it, and I was like, I want to try like addressing it with my lifestyle and in a holistic way before I'm on birth control, because it is strong medication, and I was only 16 or 17.
And you don't know the long-term consequences of that, you know, at the next milestone. Yeah.
100%. So yeah, I did get off that eventually, and I am full-time managing my PCOS with diet and gut health and exercise. So yeah.
Excellent. So, you know, that definitely is a very powerful journey, because we have so many women today who have PCOS, and, you know, the whole idea that it's a lifestyle issue. In spite of so much knowledge and so much awareness, it's not getting driven in. And do we really want to start children so young? I mean, I'm referring to you as a child at 16, you know, it's just too young to get started on medication like that. So let's talk about pelvic health for a moment. And I just, out of complete curiosity, do you know what the pelvic floor is?
No, I've been hearing it in conversation here, and I'm like, I'm trying to piece it together, but no.
I think we're all still figuring it out.
Okay, so, good. Yeah. Okay.
So this question comes up to me because, you know, we don't think about our pelvic floor going through like pretty much your entire lifetime until it just reminds you that it exists.
Yeah.
So every time you run, jump, play sports, the pelvic floor is something that you don't even think of.
Yeah.
Great. And for the rest of you, like, how do you feel about that with the milestones that you're at? I think, Aashna, you're also still not there yet.
I'm not there yet. I honestly, like I said, I don't really have an answer right now. Do I want to have a child? Do I not? I'm taking it as it comes, unlike a lot of other things in my life that I'm an overthinker and I'm a planner, and this is one thing that I'm just going with the flow on. But yeah, when it comes to your question on do you know what the pelvic floor is, I think because we're the same generation, right? We're the same age. I don't think people really, she would come from a different point of view because she's a doctor, but I don't think anyone in my circle even speaks about it or talks about it. I don't think anyone knows what truly is wrong with them. Like in my case, I would have this consistent sort of tightness, backaches, hip pain, and I just keep dismissing it and, you know, sort of blaming it on my strength training, or like probably I'm just too anxious or stressed. But we don't really realize how much of the tension that we take on a daily basis we hold in our pelvic floor and other parts of our body as well, right? So my journey with you has been really cathartic, because I'm literally sort of releasing all of that nervous tension with restorative yoga and everything that you're sort of holding in, and you have no idea that you are, you know, or it is affecting you in the way that it is. So I think that's something I'm really grateful to you for, because it's teaching me along the way. But yeah,
yeah, it's called the letting go muscle, right? It's the muscle that holds on to so much emotion, and to really like have optimal pelvic health, it's like mind-body connection. You have to be willing to let go of the baggage sometimes that, you know, we might be carrying, like we just keep collecting stuff.
I'm overweight at this point in time, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah.
So Aashna, you're in your 30s now, married, at a stage where people are probably asking you questions like, are you planning for a baby? Do you get that?
I do, very often. I don't particularly mind it because I feel like it's also, listen, it's conditioning. I mean, when someone's in their 20s, you are going to ask them, oh, are you seeing someone? Are you going to get married? So it's only but natural for someone in your 30s to be like, hey, are you thinking about having a child? Or, are you having a child soon? So I don't really mind it, but it depends on the intent, right? There are a lot of people who come to me and be like, you've been married 4.5 years, you've been with Harit for 9 years, how are you not pregnant yet? And I'm like, bro, this isn't, I mean, it's not, it's up to you, right? And yeah, I mean, it's also up to you and your partner. It depends on your health, your mental frame of mind. Are you ready to do it? So I don't really mind the question, but yes, I get it a lot.
So when you do eventually think of planning to have a baby, like what do you think are the few things that you would want to look into, like research?
So research and me are on a breakup right now because I'm really bad I think because I'm anxious and I overthink, I try not to Google stuff and I try not to research because it takes me down in a spiral and I don't productively use it. So personally, I wouldn't really research anything, but what I love to do is actually speak to women who've been on the journey and really hear it from them firsthand. I also understand that everyone's journey is different, so it's not one size fits all. So I understand that completely, but I love to hear it raw and unfiltered and just honest, right? So anytime anyone has and out of curiosity, that's just my curious nature. It's not because I'm planning right now or I feel like it's coming up soon, but it's just for the future. If I ever need to know, I'd love to have that sort of information bank that I can keep asking questions on. So that's my research. It's more talking to people than going on Google. Yeah.
Great. So what do you think are some of the physical aspects of being pregnant that you might want to work on even now? Like, is it something that you would actually spend time on? Like, you're a busy professional.
Right.
Do you think you would have time to invest in yourself now to get stronger to carry a pregnancy?
100%, and I think you should too, because so I came here, I stumbled on this journey with you because of issues that I was facing, right? But only while I was going through it did I realize that sorting it now will positively impact me if I were to ever have a child. And that got me thinking that people should actually prep their bodies for it. We speak about prepping the mind, which is equally, if not more important, right? So that's one aspect of it, but prepping your body for it is supremely imperative. You need to do that because if you're not ready to physically, give in to that commitment, it's not going to be as smooth a journey as it could have been if you actually address those issues. So I think it is really important to either talk to a doctor or address any chronic issues that you have before you take the next step. I think that's super important. Yeah.
The only challenge with some of these lifestyle conditions is, at the end of the day, it does come from your peer group, right? Or from the research that you do, because sometimes you're not steered back. Like when you're planning a pregnancy, we look at medical tests, like maybe AMH levels and,
fertility tests.
Yeah, but are we looking at how physically fit the body is to carry a pregnancy? And I think we really, like you said it very well, we really need to start thinking about those things too. I mean, very often we address these issues only when we have a problem.
Correct, yeah.
But the whole idea of this conversation is preventive care. So if you could, like in your teens, you're not even thinking of the pelvic floor. And then somehow it creeps up on you, maybe in a mild way, but you then push it off. I mean, you just you brush it aside, and then you're in that next milestone where you're pregnant, you give birth, you're postpartum, and then suddenly it's just, you cannot ignore it at all anymore, right? Yeah. So another question I have when it comes to planning a pregnancy is, what do you think your partner would need to do to prep himself? Do you think, I mean, we don't talk about that aspect of things.
For the man, it's very different though, right? The physical commitment in terms of the amount of time and energy and effort that they need to put into it comes for the after, it's not the during. So I think it's more mental for them. It's more sort of giving into supporting you through the journey, to ensure that, listen, there are going to be ups and downs and you need to sort of be one solid unit through it. So yes, there's the whole aspect of you as a couple, seeing if you're, if you're ready, if there are any problems, addressing it, or going into the pregnancy. But during the pregnancy, I think it's more mental preparation for the man. So I think that's something, and that comes with discussing with your partner. You need to be on the same page. It takes two hands to clap. It's not going to happen if you're the only one who's ready. So he needs to be ready to meet you halfway and give in to that commitment.
And to that, I would really add this, because I see this coming up a lot nowadays in my practice. We have women running around in circles trying to figure out why they're not able to get pregnant. Even for you try for a year and then you think it's an issue, right? Like you give yourself a whole year to get pregnant. And if it doesn't happen, then you're like, okay, there's something wrong. We'll have to take now proactive measures. But in that 1 year, are we testing men? And how soon are we supposed to be doing this? Because many, many times it comes back as lifestyle issues that men are following that is also impacting the possibility of a conception.
Correct. I mean, your child is a 50 of either of you, right? So he or she is going to be a product of your health. So it is important to test the men as well.
So we have we have these cases where we have, everything said and done, it ended up being an issue where she wouldn't have had to go through so many tests and so many, you need to work out, you need to take less stress, what about the guy? It's something we need to start talking sooner, I feel. Thank you so much, Aashna. That was very, very helpful. I have one last question for you. So, what is the one thing that you would advise Aanya here? As someone who's, when you look back, you can see she's not much, maybe a decade younger, right?
Hey, I'm 16. Yeah, but go ahead.
Tell me, what's the one thing that you would?
If I had to draw from my personal experience, it may not directly apply to you, but don't overthink. Honestly, it's really not worth it. I think what you're doing, what you said you're doing is right. You have the information at hand and you're productively using it and you're seeing how you can cross that bridge. But it's a part of your life, it's not your life.
Absolutely.
So that's just something I'd say. Yeah, just take it as a part of your life, move on, and you can cross that bridge, but don't overthink. Use the information you have in hand constructively.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I'd say.
For this, I just had this conversation with someone yesterday who is about to give birth, and all these questions of why vaginal birth, why C-section, but what if. So the affirmation that we came up on is, I'm just going to focus on what's happening today, and I'm just going to focus on what I want as a goal, what I've set as a goal today, and I'm not going to think of all the what ifs. So hopefully that'll help sometimes. Yeah.
No, but she seems to be doing better than we all were, so that's fine.
But we always feel that. Like coming from where I am, I feel you guys are so much more sorted. I had zero idea. I was thrown into the deep end. I thought I was going to be such an amazing mom, and I hope I am an amazing mom, but the journey that got me here, I was definitely, many times where I was struggling, trying to figure out my own health, trying to figure out whether I even wanted to work and juggle. But you guys are much more sorted, so that's brilliant. Great. So hi, Dr. Lavanya. It's so wonderful to have you here. And, for me, this profession especially, gynecology, it's one of the busiest. It's almost like you have to set your life aside and be there, right? So how do you feel now, getting into this next phase, coming through pregnancy, birth, and postpartum? You're standing in for all three. Yeah. So how do you feel where you are?
I feel great. I feel like everything I've worked in for the last 10, 12 years, the understanding of it is far more now. So now I feel like when I go back and I see even a patient, like any patient, I would be able to help them a lot better, and also I would be able to understand what they're truly saying. And now I know how much I didn't understand, it's far beyond medicine. It's far, far beyond medicine. Like, I'm definitely one of those extremely, like, I give my 100% if I commit to something for sure. But I also know that medicine isn't everything. Like, and this journey has taught me more than any other journey that there is something beyond it, and we can help people. Like, it's holistic, right? So the entire concept of a holistic approach to a patient, and looking at a patient as a patient and not a disease, is something that this entire journey has taught me, because it's taught me to deal with myself. So, and I'm so happy that I gave myself that opportunity, truly. Like, I gave myself a break, I gave myself the opportunity to go out there and figure, what is there more than medicine. So yeah, for sure, when I go back, I think I will look at a patient as a person, as a person just like me.
And even when it comes to obstetrics,
Yeah.
they're technically just women who are pregnant, and they don't even fall into that category of being a patient, right? You don't realize that until you go through a pregnancy yourself.
Totally, yeah. Yeah, I'm so glad. Like, I did have a few seniors and senior consultants who always said, a patient, a pregnant woman isn't a patient. Don't call her a patient. She's normal. There's nothing wrong with her.
It's a physiological phase in your life.
That's it.
Birth is exactly the same. So, one of the things that always strikes me is when I work with gynecologists, in childbirth education especially, we do have a lot of gynacs, and even you did attend like the birth workshop, which is an educational program to prep you for childbirth. I feel like they're so vulnerable because they have so much information. They know everything that could possibly happen, right? And it's almost like it's overwhelming, and at the same time, you're a mother too. You're a first-time pregnant woman. You're going to be a mom for the first time. So how do you manage those emotions? Like, have you had people who have treated you like a real patient, or has it always been you figure it out?
It was a bit of both, for sure. It was a bit of like, felt like 50% of my pregnancy I dealt with on my own. I self-medicated and sort of went about my own things. But I would say there are too many anxieties. So like, especially being a gynaec, getting pregnant, going through a delivery, you've seen all the possible outcomes there. You've seen patients really suffer. You've seen really easy deliveries as well, and mine wasn't, and I did everything there was out there to try and have, the perfect birth experience, but it didn't happen for me. And it's a lot of accepting that, yeah, it's going to go both ways. And I remember the first time I met you, I said, you know what, I'm great. I've come in, for a prenatal yoga or whatever, but I'm not coming here as a goal of a normal delivery. And I said that to you straight on because I've seen it. I cannot control those situations, So I think it is a lot of acceptance. You got to accept, as you said, that you are not in control of a lot of stuff. So as long as you do that, your mind is free, clear, and you give in to it a lot easier. You're making your life simpler by just accepting the fact that you can't control this. And I think that helped me the most as a gynaec, I didn't try too much.
That's great, because I think that's where, like, overthinking can really, because every possible consequence. Yeah. So, but you still did try for a vaginal birth, and I
did. I got induced, I tried, I went through labor, it didn't work out for me.
And in your case, I would say it was a truly medical reason. So, yeah, I mean, these things happen. So, so the one thing I wanted to ask you is, as you went through your pregnancy, birth, and postpartum, were there any surprises for you, like as a doctor?
I think the thing that surprised me the most was how much I didn't know. I worked in private practice.
That's funny coming from a doctor.
Yeah, especially a gynaec, right? Because first-hand experience is different. And you can be two kinds of people, right? You can be a person who's like, work throughout my pregnancy. I'm not going to allow any more information into my body. I'm going to just deliver and then I'm going to go back to work. can be that person. And then you can also be the person that I tried to be, which was, no, you know what, I really want to delve into this. I want to find out what are people doing out there to help themselves. And today I'm able to deal with my pelvic floor issues with you, and you've helped me so much with that, only because I even gave myself that chance to, you know, get that information out there. And a lot of people outside the medical profession will organically get that information. So because they don't have a bias towards medicine, right? But people already in medicine will find it very difficult to think outside the box, or to you know, be like, you know what, I'm open to you know, a pelvic physio teaching me about pelvic health. Like, yes, you've taught me so much, you know. So yeah, it's about being open, and it's about being accepting, you know, just of all the information, and then, you know, utilizing it how you want to utilize.
I think you really answered my next question there, because I was going to ask you if there's anything that's changed about the way you view postpartum and the way you would guide or advise your patients now, knowing that they've given birth, they've had a C-section, they've had a vaginal birth, whichever, you know, way or mode of delivery, you know, what role does our support as a medical team, like what role does it have?
It has everything, and I think it is extremely important to do your blood tests, to do your scans, to do your doctor checkups, and to have a plan, a birth plan. So from the day you get pregnant to the day you deliver, it is extremely important you're in touch with your doctor, and, you know, the medical side of things is figured out. I wouldn't take away 1% of that. At the same time, that's not going to help you mentally, or anything more than that is not going to help you. So, you know, getting that help, I don't know, it could be reading books. See, that's not something I did. For me as a gynec, less information was better. I refrained from information, I refrained from research. I still do. I don't get into too much of it because it gives me anxiety. And as you said, it doesn't constructively build into anything. You know, so just the fact that I have a general discretion that, yeah, this is something I should be doing, this is something I shouldn't be doing, has helped me navigate this. And I think a lot of people, especially women, you know, they'll turn around and they'll be like, you know, if you do this, you'll have a vaginal birth. If you do this, you know, you will be able to breastfeed really well. And I just really want to tell people out there, stop trying to control this. You cannot control this. You may be able to breastfeed. You may choose to breastfeed. You may choose not to breastfeed. You may choose, I want to breastfeed, but it won't happen for you. You know, so
You have to have a plan to not have a plan.
completely, and that will help you a lot mentally. The minute you accept that and say, it can go either way, and you know what, I'm going to do my best.
But you know what's most important here in all of this? That you are informed about the pros and cons of every decision you could make. And then you make an informed decision based on that, because then at the end of the day, you have your personal, you know, choices, you have your own lifestyle, and that decision has to fit into it. So whether you breastfeed, or whether you formula feed, or whether you combination feed, I mean, you really value your sleep. You want to make sure that, you know, you've tried all the options, but it hasn't worked, and now this is the only thing that works with your lifestyle, and that's something that you've had closure around. I think a lot of times what happens with this phase is there isn't enough information, and you just take a decision based on what, you know, you're told, and then you don't have closure around why I couldn't. Yeah. So when we talk about giving birth in the postpartum, there's definitely issues like incontinence, prolapse, and you know, when you have like a knee surgery, for example, like a total knee replacement, you have physiotherapy right after at the bedside, and then, you know, 6 weeks, 12 weeks of rehab after. I know that giving birth is a very physiological event, but it definitely destabilizes a woman's core. And we have a lot of one-size-fits-all approaches these days, like where you can follow YouTube videos and just do Kegels. I mean, what is your perspective now as a gynecologist and being a new mom and having experienced pelvic floor physiotherapy? What is your opinion on Kegels as a one-size-fits-all approach? Because, you know, we talk about prescription when it comes to exercise? Some people need it, some people absolutely don't. So can you just shed some light there?
So I do think it, as you said, Kegels doesn't fit everyone, and I think it's up to an individual to give themselves the opportunity to get evaluated postpartum. So checking yourself for a DR, or checking, you know, whether you require Kegels or a relaxation, or, you know, what is wrong with your pelvic floor, something you need to give yourself. So yes, as gynecologists, we should give you the option to meet a pelvic physio and, you know, figure it out. But Kegels as such is not a great exercise to do as a blanket. So it's not a blanket therapy, it's not a blanket treatment for all. It doesn't help, in fact, it makes things worse. So for somebody like me who had a very, very tight pelvic floor, when I came to you, you know, I had to have like an internal release like multiple times, and then eventually have gotten into strengthening now. It's been a huge journey, and I felt I was very informed as a person. You know, I've studied so much, so many textbooks, whatever, but I wasn't. I couldn't diagnose myself as having a tight pelvic floor. I could only tell you symptoms, and I think that's where a physio is so important, because you're dealing with this every day. So I think definitely my message to everybody is, you know, get yourself evaluated by a professional. And I don't mean a gynecologist. A gynecologist may not be the perfect person to detect these things. You know?
Yeah, because these are musculoskeletal issues, right? It comes into a completely different spectrum. And just like you, when you evaluate a shoulder, you need to see all the muscles around. With pelvic health, it's an internal muscle. So you need to have that extended expertise, even as a physical therapist, to have that advanced certification to really know how to do those assessments and keep your profession safe, in the sense that informed consent. You know, make sure that they know exactly what to expect. And, you know, I just feel like, thank you, Dr. Lavanya, for saying that, because it really means a lot coming from you, especially because I think we need more collaborative models of care, where there's less pressure on just one profession to deliver everything, right? Like, we need to work as a team. And the last question, and actually more than a question, I would like to like give you this, how can I put this? Wait, obviously this is going to get cut out. One thing I want to tell you that I feel like has been a big takeaway in my conversation with you, not just today, but even before, is that you have given yourself that opportunity to take a break from work. And I think you made a clean break and said that I'm going to enjoy my baby now, just be a mother for a bit. But at the same time, eventually when you get back to working, I think you will have that renewed energy, you would have rested enough, given your body that opportunity to really heal. You know, invest time in yourself to get stronger, to spend time with your daughter, look at her milestones, and then get back to the workforce, because it's very important that doctors like you come back and are supportive for the next generation. So thank you.
Thank you.
So Mrs. Neetha, it's so wonderful to have you here. We've also had so many conversations along the same line. How do you feel? Yeah, how do you feel looking at these, like, you know, wonderful women who've gone through, like, clearly, like you come from a place of wisdom for us?
Yes, but I've just been listening to all these three wonderful ladies over here, and I was like reflecting on my teenage and my mid-30s and post-baby, having childbirth and all. I said, these girls are so well informed, and coming from the times, my times, it was like as if teenage, I think we just sailed through. We didn't know what we are going through, and everything was hush hush when I got my first period. It was like, oh, go sit in a corner, and then early marriage, and pregnant when I'm 19, and what's waiting for me? Childbirth. What's childbirth? What's baby? What's happening to me? Absolutely zero information. Only grandmothers passing down advices to you. Good advices, yes, no doubt, because they've been through. We used to have my granny used to have a baby every year. She had 16 children. Wow. So yes, fine, but everything was taken in a very light mood, you know. okay, this is happening, okay, fine, it's all right, fine. It's okay, everything is normal, nothing is abnormally happening to you. No explanations to know what's happening to you emotionally, physically. And it was a different scenario in those days. And my first one was, I have two girls. My first one was a normal and the second was a C-section. Two totally different childbirths they were. Nothing prepared me for the second one, having already gone through the first one. First one was like a trial and error baby, I think. Working out, trying to find out what's happening with me. So it's wonderful that there's so much information out there today to help you, and it was so even more wonderful that you are now going to go back to work with a totally different perspective to help out the uneducated or less informed people out there.
That being said, I must say that you're one of those people who definitely is very well researched about what's happening with your body. And I feel like you come from a place of knowledge even when it comes to understanding why certain symptoms have surfaced for you, right? So I wouldn't take that away at all and say uninformed. But with menopause, right? Like at what age, if you don't mind sharing?
I was 38 when I went through a hysterectomy. I had fibroids in my uterus. The doctor gave me 1 year to help it correct it on its own on medication, but it worsened. Like I was bleeding for almost 1 month, 1 full month. That's when she said, okay, we can't take any more risk and we need to do away with it. So, but my ovaries were left behind because they were healthy, functional, my gynae said at that time. And I was at the peak of my career at that time. So I really cannot say what menopause was, because when I look back in perspective, I never knew I'm going through menopause. Removing the uterus is going to get me into menopause.
Just throw you into menopause.
Yeah.
Jump starts. Yeah.
So at that time, somebody asked me, oh, you're going through menopause. I would ask, what's that?
Yeah.
Because I didn't know that I'm supposed to be going through menopause or I'm going through. I attributed all my emotional mood swings or the weight gain that suddenly happened with me. I put it down to stress and emotional binging and looking after home and looking after parents at home and work stress, work schedules, timelines. So I really didn't know what was happening with me at that point.
So what were some of the symptoms that you were experiencing with menopause?
Anxiety outbursts. I just couldn't take a grip on myself, and nobody from the outside would know what actually is happening inside, because on the outside you're smiling, you're getting through, you're sailing through the day, but in the night I'm a total mess inside. So probably all that accumulated mess landed me where I am or was 6 months back.
So how did that translate to, because you have had pretty much everything, like your career, got married very young, had kids very young, but then you also had this opportunity to like pursue like a very strong like presence with work. So how did you juggle all of that through menopause? What were some of the things that we could take away, because we're all headed in that direction now? I'm perimenopause. So
it's like I mentioned earlier, getting onto a spiritual path became a necessity for me, because I was struggling. I was really struggling with myself. I wanted to find peace. And where do I find peace? Where do I go looking for it? How do I bring that into myself? So that longing of resting within myself, so that I can have good sleep, maybe just 2 hours, maybe just 3 hours, but I wanted good sleep, restful sleep, is what led me on to researching about meditation, about, I was always a fitness freak. I would never miss my exercise regime. And, but there was something missing. So that my longing to find that something missing, I found it by bringing in meditation into my life. So spending time for myself, the so-called what we call today me time. There was no me time in those days. So slowly bringing, it was not easy. Trust me, it was not easy. It took me, I think, must be 10, 15 years till I really found that balance. That helped me.
Yeah. You know, I mean, like people talk about having support systems, like women form 50% of the population and we take care of the other 50 technically, right? So it's so important to make sure our mental health, our physical health is absolutely intact, because otherwise you're pouring from an empty cup. It's just very hard. And I think that's what happens when at every stage, hopefully now for the next generation, they'll have support at every stage, preventive care at every stage, so that when you step into that role of getting into menopause, at least you've like not burnt out by that point or needed to. I mean, of course, it's great to have that connection and need to go back. Everybody needs to go back to mindfulness and meditation and bring a pause in life. But I think it would come from a better place, not because they were struggling and they absolutely needed it.
This is what I really wish I had already brought into my life when I was in my 30s or when I was in my 40s. I wish I had spent more time knowing how to bring that balance, or people around me, or some more information to know. It was, in those days, it was like meditation. I know that a lot of finger pointing happened to me during that time when I would go for retreats.
Right.
And spend some time with myself. Oh, this so-and-so's daughter-in-law is a little crazy.
Not allowed to take time off for yourself.
Crazy. She sits all by herself. At this age, she's holding a mala in her hand. You know, it's unheard of. What's going to happen? She's got 2 girls. Who will marry them? She's trying to become a yogi. But I really wish that I had this information when I was younger, so that I was not actually, like you said, burnt out.
Yeah, you know, but even in all the conversations that we've had, one thing that reflects back to me is, even if you look at the type of exercise we choose, right? When I see younger women, they want the workouts to be very, very active, engaging and stimulating. But then you realize that you need to balance it with restorative stuff, with mindful movements, so that you have a balance between both. You have an opportunity to reset even there. So it really comes down to every layer. So now that you're in this phase, like what do you think about perceptions? Like, are people talking about menopause openly?
Not yet. No. See the young girls here who just mentioned, even they are still not fully informed or to make them ready to accept what is waiting for them. Of course, every human body is different, but there is a general layout that what menopause can be and how can I prepare myself. But it's only a handful of youngsters that I would see now, though there are so much awareness, so many podcasts happening, so much information out there, that even the youngsters are still ready, wanting to do it. Oh, that we'll see later.
And there's also judgment, you know, at some end. Like, I've had people tell me, I never knew what menopause was. I was so fit and so active that it didn't affect me. In fact, my mom said that to me. She was like, I didn't know what menopause was. I never had any menopause. And I was like, no. We knew that you were having menopause. You didn't know it, but we knew it. So sometimes it's like the people around you that also need to understand. And I think we all took a step back and said, give her some space. And thankfully, she didn't realize that she was ever going through menopause symptoms. But, another thing I want to ask you about is some of the menopause symptoms. Everything that we are going through in life, we're headed there. And some of the symptoms that we talk about with pelvic health, we think that this is what will happen to you in menopause. But it's not necessary at all. You can experience it as a teenager, you can experience it as someone in your 20s, 30s or 40s. But what are some of the symptoms that you think people should really take seriously?
Pelvic health prioritizing is what I would strongly suggest. Because recently I went through a bladder prolapse last year. And had I known that I'm going headed for it. My symptoms of recurrent UTI, pain, take an antibiotic for 7 days and you're done with it till the next UTI recurs. And though I was being evaluated also, but nothing prepared me, or I had no information even today in this age that something as a bladder prolapse can happen.
Yeah.
So it came as a rude shock to me that how come? I have been exercising. Yes, my dietary habits have been on and off, on and off. I've not been so very good with my diet. I'm a foodie, I love food. So, okay, fine, but that doesn't mean that I have to have a prolapse. And uterine prolapse, yes. I've already had a hysterectomy. I'm basically taking care of my mental health also and emotional health also. So what's this? And it was not very easy. It was extremely painful that I went through at that moment. I think I lost your question.
No, and also when we talk about prolapse, right, we are always thinking of the uterus prolapsing. Yes. So many people, when we say bladder prolapse, you're like, we didn't even know that it could.
Yes. So this is also one.
So it becomes very confusing.
Yeah. So this is also like recurring UTI, I should have been warned.
Yeah.
But where to get that information from?
Yeah. No, when there is recurrent UTIs, you constantly give antibiotics, but you don't realize that the UTIs could be because of the prolapse. Yes. And you need to treat the primary cause.
Absolutely.
Not the after effects of it. So unfortunately, recurrent antibiotic use would then destroy your gut health, and then it just sets you up for a vicious cycle, which we really need to learn to break.
That's right.
So, yeah.
So it like happened 3 years ago when the UTIs kept recurring, first every 6 months, then 4 months, then 3 months, and then it came down to every month, every 3 weeks. But like you rightly said, I never ever imagined that, you know, popping the antibiotics is actually ruining my gut health, because that became a vicious cycle. Then my thyroid started getting affected, hormonal issues started cropping up, weight gain happened, which was not good for the pelvis, you know, so much. And I had to slow down on my exercises. So the whole performance, my body performance went into a big toss.
And you know, I want to bring up this one conversation that we had where you sent me a picture of some insane workouts that you used to do. And then you said to me, see, this is the kind of stuff that I used to do, like almost like with nostalgia. And then I wrote back to you saying that that is why we are where we are, right? It is because sometimes we think we are working out, we're strengthening our bodies, but are we actually moving the right way?
No.
Or the way our bodies are designed to move, right? Are we breathing through our workouts to support our pelvic floors? So sometimes I feel like you're doing all of these, you know, these routines, but you're essentially pushing your bladder down, or you're essentially pushing your uterus out with the wrong movements. So, you know, I'll come back to the question that I asked Aanya, like how often do you think of your pelvic floor when you run, hop, skip and jump? And how often do you think of your pelvic floor?
I don't think I ever thought of it while I was exercising. I just thought I'm able to do, like say 2 years ago, I would say I was doing a deadlift of 10 kilos and I thought, wow, I'm 60 and I can still do it. Yay, Neetha, you've done it, you know?
And there's so much pressure today, especially like everybody, like all the, like I'm talking about children my age, like in our 40s, want to take care of our parents. And we want them to get stronger, so we keep putting pressure on them to do strength training, like do strength, do strength, do strength. But then you have to also understand that at that age, the kind of weights you would lift or the kind of breath work you would do when you lift would become very, very important. So it has to come from a place of knowledge and understanding, and not the same generic workouts you would give a 20-year-old.
That's right. So I wish I had that kind of knowledge, that this thing can lead to a prolapse. So you need to rework your exercise regime. You don't have to stop, but then you have to start maintaining a food diary, find out what is causing it, and so that you can eliminate those and keep the gut healthy, and change your form, your method of exercise, so that you still can continue being fit and not come. It's like again, for the second time in my life, I've like kind of burnt out. I'm restarting again now. So I'm redefining my body now, what I need, what I know. I'm unlearning. And all this, of course, started my journey with you when I met you in September.
I learn from you as much as you learn from me, really. Because all my questions about how to balance work and family, like, goes to Mrs. Neetha. But it was absolutely wonderful. I mean, I think I'm hoping these honestly, like, you know, I can see that I was also very confident in the questions I have asked each one of you. But when it came to Mrs. Neetha, I was like trying to think about what to say, trying to think about what to bring up, because I've not experienced that phase of my life yet. And it's so important for me to take some of these things seriously. When you talk about spirituality, I'm not there yet. But should I be thinking about setting up a space for myself right now, knowing that in the future, I might need a support, I might need something that will support me outside of, you know, what we already know or have.
Just 10 minutes.
Right now, it seems like...
Just give yourself 10 minutes a day.
Yeah.
Like you give yourself time to do your workout.
Yeah.
And give your time for all the other things that are scheduled during your day. Just start with just 10 minutes. Trust me.
Absolutely.
Take you a long way.
Absolutely.
Long way, those 10 minutes.
Wonderful. All right, guys, so we are going to lighten things up a bit. We're going to do a quick rapid fire round. So it's the first thing that comes to your mind, okay, when I read out this sentence. So Aanya, what's the one thing adults today totally overcomplicate about being a teenager?
I think they blame the phone for everything.
That's a good answer.
Okay, if you had to describe Gen Z in one word, what would it be?
Sociable.
What's one trend or phrase you wish millennials would stop using?
A lot of this, I actually like dude. I think we should bring back dude. I don't think they say anything that they'd stop using, but I like dude. It's a cool word.
Is bro still a thing?
Bro's still a thing, very much, yeah. Bro's still a thing.
I don't know when that will go. All right. Aashna, what's the most ridiculous married woman expectation you've heard?
That you need to get pregnant the second you get married. I mean, I've barely been married a second and everyone's asking you, oh, are you pregnant yet?
When's the baby coming?
When's the baby coming? Yeah.
If your uterus had a voice, what would it say right now?
Bro, you need to chill, is what it would say, yeah.
So when are you having a baby? If someone asks you, what's your go-to response?
It's none of your business, is what my response would be, and it always is, yeah.
All right, Dr. Lavanya. So what's the most WTF thing you've heard during pregnancy?
So someone told me that I can't have coffee, but I can have like 1 beer a day. So I think that's the one.
So if your baby could talk and could roast you, what would it be on?
For sure, get a life. Stop staring at me.
I said it. It's okay. We'll filter mine out.
Let's just pretend like.
So if postpartum had a theme song, what would it be?
Let it go, let it go. There's nothing you can control.
Great. So Mrs. Neetha, hot flashes or mood swings, what would you pick?
Mood swings.
What's the one perk of menopause?
One perk, the good side of menopause? Well, getting the attention that you really sometimes seek.
Great. And if you could send your younger self a message, what would it be?
Be more mindful.
Excellent. Great. So that was a great conversation. Thank you so much for being so candid, so open, so real about everything we've talked about. And I really hope it helps a lot of you women out there as you're getting into these stages, into these phases of your life. And if this conversation resonated with you, please do follow, please do subscribe. We are going to be coming up with a lot more conversation around women's health and pelvic health, because this is what women need. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.